朋友们，大家好！现在我们讲新概念英语第三册的第26课。我先把课文念一遍啊。Wanted a large biscuit tin. No one can avoid being influenced by advertisement. Much as we may pride ourselves on our good taste, we are no longer free to choose the things we want. For advertising exerts a subtle influence on us. In their efforts to persuade us to buy this or that product, advertisers have made a close study of human nature and have classified all our little weaknesses. Advertisers discovered years ago that all of us love to get something for nothing. An advertisement which begins with the magic word free can rarely go wrong. These days, advertisers not only offer free samples, but free cars, free houses, and free trips around the world as well. They devise hundreds of competitions which will enable us to win huge sums of money. Radio and television have made it possible for advertisers to capture the attention of millions of people in this way. During a radio program, a company of biscuits manufacturers once asked the listeners to bake biscuits and send them to their factory. They offered to pay $2 a pound for the biggest biscuit baked by a listener. The response to this competition was tremendous. Before long, the biscuits of all shapes and sizes began arriving at the factory. One lady brought in the biscuits on a wheelbarrow. It weighed nearly 500 pounds. A little later, a man came along with the biscuits which occupied the whole boot of his car. All the biscuits that were sent were carefully weighed. The largest was 713 pounds. It seemed certain that this would win the prize. But just before the competition closed, a lorry arrived at the factory with a truly colossal biscuit which weighed 2,400 pounds. It had been baked by a college student who had used over 1,000 pounds of flour, 800 pounds of sugar, 200 pounds of fat, and 400 pounds of various other ingredients. It was so heavy that a crane had to be used to remove it from the lorry. The manufacturers had to pay more money than they had anticipated, for they bought the biscuits from the student for $4,800。好，那么我们来看那个第一句啊。No one can avoid being influenced by advertisements. 啊，那么这一句呢是一句简单句啊。那么这个里面有一个宾语啊，有一个宾语是现在分词的宾语啊 ，being influenced 的。那么这个 being influenced 的，就是一个被动语态的现在分词短语啊 ，being influenced 的。那么这个做这个 avoid 的宾语的。Much as we may pride ourselves on our good taste, we are no longer free to choose the things we want. For advertisers are。那么这一句啊，好。那么这一句呢，首先呢，这里有一个让步状语从句啊。Much as we may pride ourselves on our good taste， 这个是一个 much 引导的这个 much as as 啊，这里的那个状语引导状语从句的这个是 as 啊，它是作为一种让步状语啊，尽管啊。Much as we， 尽管我们呢会怎么样，非常的骄傲，对我们的 good taste， 对不对 ？Much as we may pride ourselves， 那这是一个让步状语从句，以 as 引导的啊。那么 ，we are no longer free to choose the things we want， 啊，那么这个是主句啊。那么 we are no longer free to choose the things we want， 那么这个里面呢有一个不定式。 to choose the things we want。这个不定式呢是这个形容词 free 的补助语啊。那么这里有一个 we want， 这个 we want 是一个定语从句啊 ，the things 修饰 the things 啊。那么这个定语从句的关系代词省掉了啊 ，the things which we want 啊，那么它省掉了关系代词。好，后面这个 for advertising exerts a subtle influence on us 啊，这个是一个原因状语从句啊。它前面是一个让步状语从句，后面有一个原因状语从句。这个原因状语从句是什么 ？Advertising exerts a subtle influence on us。这个是一个以 for 引导的原因状语从句啊。In their efforts to persuade us to buy this or that product, advertisers made a close blah 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 blah。好，那么这句啊，这一句呢，这句实际上是一句简单句啊。那么前面呢，这个是 in their efforts， 这个是一个名词性的短语啊，sorry， 这是一个介词短语啊。In their efforts to persuade us to buy this or that product， this or that product， 这是一个介词短语啊。那么做状语的，那么这里有个不定式 to 啊 ，to persuade us to buy， 这里有两个不定式啊。这里有两个不定式，首先第一个不定式是to persuade us to buy this or that product， 这个呢是修饰这个 efforts 的啊。那么这个不定式里面呢还有一个不定式 to persuade us to buy this or that，to buy this or that， 这个呢是做 persuade 的宾语的，这个介词短语是做 persuade 的宾语的。那么这个整个前面这个不定式呢是修饰这个 efforts， 做 effort 的补语，修饰 efforts 的啊。那么 advertisers have made a close study of it and have classified all。 那么这个呢是两个谓语并列的啊。这个第一个谓语啊 have made a close study of human nature， 这个是一个谓语，然后第二个谓语是 have classified all our little weaknesses， 这两个呢用一个 and 呢把它并列起来了，对吧？好，后面 advertisers discovered years ago that all of us love to get something for nothing 啊。那么这个呢就是说这个里面有一个宾语从句啊，那么这个宾语从句呢就是 that all of us love to get something for nothing。那么这个呢是 discover， 它是做 discover 的宾语的啊，这是一个宾语从句 that 引导的宾语从句。那么这个宾语从句大家注意了啊，它用的是一般现在时态，它的动词用 love 啊，但是它的主句是什么？主句是过去时态，对吧 ？discovered。那么这个从句是用的是一个一般现在时态，因为它讲的是一个没有时间的啊，没有时间 ，all of us love 就讲出一个 fact 啊。那么像这种句子呢，它这个动词呢是用一般现在时态的，不会用过去时态的啊。好，那么an advertisement which begins with the magic word can really go wrong 好。那么这个呢是 好，这里面有一个定语从句 which begins with the magic word free 啊，这个呢是一个定语从句，这个 which 呢修饰指这个 advertisement。The advertisement begins with the magic word free can really go wrong 啊。那么后面 these days advertisers not only offer free samples but free as well 啊。那么这个呢是一个什么？是一个词组 not only but 啊 as well 啊。这里是 not only， 然后是 but， 然后呢是 as well 啊，这个是一个词组对吧？不仅怎么样还怎么样啊？他们不仅 not only offer free samples but not only offer free samples but free cars, free and free trips around the world as well 啊，这个应该是简单句啊。Sorry。好，那么后面这一句啊 ，They devise hundreds of competitions which will enable us to win huge sums of money 啊。那么这个一句呢，里面也有一句定语从句 which will enable us to win huge sums of money 啊。这个呢是修饰那个 competitions 的啊。那个这个 which 是指那个 competition 的啊。这个是定语从句 which will enable us to win huge sums of money 啊。那么后面 radio and television made it possible for adults to capture attention of millions in this way 哈。那么这一句啊，这一句呢是这一句里面啊，这个 it 啊，这个 it 是一个形式宾语啊 ，made it possible 啊，这个是 it 是宾语，对不对？它是 made 的宾语，这个 it， 但是它是一个形式宾语啊。那么它的真正的宾语是什么？真正的一句宾语是 for advertisers to capture the attention of millions of people in this way 啊，这个是真正的宾语。这个宾语呢是一个不定式，对吧？那么这个 for advertiser 呢是不定式的主语。那么我前面一课讲过了，那个不定式的主语呢，往往要用介词 for 来引导的，对吧 ？For advertisers to capture the， 那么实际上这句子就是说，the radio and television have made advertisers to capture made advertisers to capture the attention of millions of people in this way possible。哎，等于说这个是真正的宾语，但是这个宾语很长啊，是不定式的，所以呢，他用了一个形式宾语啊，再放在前面 ，made it possible for 怎么样啊？好，后面。During a radio program, a company of business biscuits 不是 business sorry, a company of biscuits manufacturer once asked listeners to bake biscuits and send them to their factory 啊。那么这一句啊，这一句应该是简单句对吧？这一句是这个主语是 a company of a business a company of a business manufacturer， 这个是主语对不对 ？Once asked listeners， 这里一个 to bake biscuits and send them to the manufacturer， 这个是一个不定式做宾语的啊，做 ask 的宾语的。要他们怎么样？要他们 bake biscuits and send them to the factory 啊，这个是宾语啊，这直接宾语。那个 listeners 是间接宾语啊 ，ask listeners to do what 啊？那么they offered to pay $2 a pound for the biggest pizza baked by a listener 啊。They offered to pay £2 for the biggest 好，那么这里呢有一个过去分词短语 baked by a listener， 这个过去分词短语修饰这个 biscuits 的啊，修饰这个 biscuits 啊，那么实际上面它这个是有被动意思的啊 ，to be baked by a listener 啊，好。The response to this competition was tremendous， 这个简单句啊，这个简单句。Before long, biscuits of all shapes and sizes began arriving。好，那么这个也是一句简单句啊。Biscuits of all shapes began arriving。好，那么这个呢，就是说，这个里面有一个现在分词短语啊。那么这个现在分词短语是做状语的啊，因为这里的一个 begin 啊，这个 began 啊是一个不及物动词啊，所以呢，这个 arriving 呢。应该是做状语的，这个状语呢是修饰这个主语的啊 ，biscuits of all shapes and sizes。那么 one lady brought in the biscuits on the wheelbarrow， 这个也是一句简单句啊。It weighed nearly 500 pounds， 也是简单句。A little later, a man came along with the biscuits which are the wholes of 啊。那么这一句句子呢，有一个定语从句在这里 ，which occupied the whole boot of his car。那么这个定语从句，这个 which 指这个 biscuits 啊，这个 biscuits occupy the whole boot of his car 啊，这是一句定语从句。然后 all the biscuits that were sent were carefully weighed 啊。那么这一句里面又有一个定语从句啊 ，that was sent。 这个是定语从句，这个 that 是关系代词，指这个 biscuits 啊。All the biscuits that were sent, the biscuits were sent. 然后我 carefully weighed， 这个是定语从句，这个关系代词是 that， 指这个 biscuits 啊。The largest was 这个简单句，对吧？然后后面啊 ，It seemed certain that this would win the prize。好，那么这一句呢，我跟以前呢讲过的句子类似的啊，这个是一个叫形式主语 ，it seemed 啊 ，it seemed certain， 然后这个是一个分句啊，名词性的那个 that 引导的名词性的从句啊。That this would win the would win the prize 啊，那么这个呢是做真正的主语的，这个就是这个真正的主语，等于说是什么 ？That this would win the prize seemed certain 啊，那么这个一般的从句啊，如果是一句句子做主语的话，一般往往它会放到句尾，然后呢句首呢用一个形式主语啊，这个大家碰到多了，对吧？好，那么 ，But just before the competition closed, a lorry arrived with truly colossal biscuits which weighed 啊。那么这一句啊，这句首先呢就是说有一个状语从句，时间状语从句 ，just before，but just before the competition closed， 这个是一个时间状语从句啊。然后呢，后面呢又有一个宾语从句啊 ，sorry， 一个定语从句啊。A lorry arrived at the factory with a truly colossal biscuit。那么这个 which 啊指这个 biscuit，the biscuit weighed 2400 pounds 啊。那么这个呢就是一个定语从句，修饰这个 biscuit， 这个 biscuit 为什么多重的啊？这个是一个定语从句啊。It had been baked by a college student who had used over blah 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 pounds of various。好，那么这一句这个 it 是指那个 biscuit 啊，这个不是形式主义，这个是指这个 biscuit 啊，那个 biscuit had been baked by a college student。那后面 who had used 这个呢又是一句定语从句。以 who 这个 who 就是指那个 student 啊，这个关系代词 who 就指那个 student 啊 ，college student 啊，那 college student who had used over who had used over blah blah the pounds of fat， 这个叫这个定语从句里面本身是一个简单句啊，那么好，那么再看下去啊。It was so heavy that a crane had to be used to remove it 啊。那么这个结构呢，大家以前也知道的啊，不是以前啊，这以前也念到过的啊。It was so heavy， 这里面有一个 so 怎么样 ？So heavy that 啊，如此的重啊，以至于这个是一个结果状语从句啊。就是说，结果是怎么样啊，以至于怎么样啊，这结果状语从句啊。那么前面这个 so 啊是一个副词啊，这个 so 是一个修饰 heavy 的那个副词啊 ，so heavy 这个 so 是修饰这个 heavy 的这个副词，对不对？然后呢，这个 that 呢是一句状语从句啊，结果状语从句啊。结果以至于呢 ，a crane had to be used to remove it from the lorry 啊。那么好 ，the manufacturers had to pay more money than they had anticipated for their blah blah blah。好，那么这个主句啊，到这里呢，这个是主句。The manufacturers had to pay more money than they had anticipated。那么这一句是比较句啊 ，had to pay more money than they had anticipated， 这个是比较句。那么后面这个是原因状语从句啊。因为 they bought the biscuits from the students for $4,800 啊，那么这个呢是原因状语从句。好，那么这一课呢，从这一课来看呢，就是说这一课里面的定语从句非常多。那么我们现在就说 基本上新概念英语第三册里面啊，这种从句啊，定语从句特别的多啊，因为这个也是这个课文啊，它诚心这样安排的，让同学们掌握就比较复杂的一些句子啊。那么很多地方都有定语从句的啊，修饰这个名词的啊。好，那么今天这课就讲到这里，谢谢大家，再见。